my dad was a whistleblower, and I was a young kid. We had a ranch in New York, a cattle ranch. Believe it or not, there's cattle ranches in upstate New York. But he was a whistleblower for Housing and Urban Development Agency, HUD. And he had a GS-14 rating, which is basically clearance. He's got, anyways, he ended up blowing the whistle, and I'm going to drop some names here on a guy named Frank Sarabone, who's dead now, and I can mention his name. He was a mob boss in New York, and he blew the whistle on his boss, which was Frank Sarabone, for skimming money off the pots of the community garden program that my dad wrote for HUD in 1968, which they're still working on that model today, that community garden package my dad wrote. And when he did that, he blew the whistle. He was fired for wrongdoing, of course, fall guy, whistleblower. There was no protections for whistleblowers, and there really isn't now. I mean, they say there is, but there's not. But without going too much into it, he was fired and blacklisted. My dad had a real extensive background. He went through World War II. He's a war hero. He was in 11 battle campaigns, Macon Raid, Aleutian Islands, all over the South Pacific as a Navy guy, and a medic on the USS Nashville. And so he came home from World War II going, we won the war. I'm a patriot. Let's build our country, like all those men did back then. And he got a job for the government, and then he saw the corruption. And at that point, it just kind of let the wind out of his sail, because he wanted to be righteous and a patriot and put the corruption on the table and deal with it. And he got a job as a whistleblower, internal affairs, And
so he was internal affairs.
Internal affairs for HUD.
And then, so what did he?
How did
that work out?
Well, he blew the whistle on this guy, filed a report on Frank Sarabone, who was skimming basically out of the budget of the community garden program that he wrote. And he caught him in it, and he's lining the pockets of all the mob guys in New York with that money, our tax dollars at work. And when he did that, they blacklisted him, fired him for they fired him, and then I'm trying to recall some of this. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old at this time. But 15 years of my life, my dad fought it without a lawyer all the way through the court system to the United States Supreme Court. It's a documented case you can look up. It's V.L. Shaw versus the people of the United States. So that's the case. And on the third appeal, he lost. And it took him almost 15 years. And I ran the farm, growing up running the farm, while my dad fought the government all of my life.
Holy cow.
And he fought it. People magazine stated one time that my dad was one of the top 10 legal conceptual minds of our time. Oprah Winfrey did an interview with my dad over the whole mad cow disease and stuff like that. And
oh, wow.
When that whole thing came out.
Yeah.
So my dad, because he was blacklisted and couldn't get a job anywhere else doing property management, et cetera, he was the vice president for the Bank of America over the whole California state branch when they had vice presidents and presidents over the states. And so he had a good background when he went to HUD. And he blew the whistle, and that let the wind out of his patriotic sail, so to speak.
I can see how that would happen.
And they ended up shooting over 300 head of cattle in our yard as a kid, in our fields. Burning our house down.
Who did that?
Either the mafia or the government.
So they just came in.
The jury's out on that one.
Were you home?
We were on a camping trip, and we came home to a house burnt down and dead cattle in the field. It was very traumatic as a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and us as kids, it was just my sister and I at that point. The other two weren't born yet. But it was, it was very surreal. It still is, because of the
Did your dad have an idea, or like, was he leaning one way or the other on who it was?
That never came out in the court cases or documents. And I think it was just kind of swept under the carpet, and it probably was the mafia. It might have been the government. I mean, they act the same way. So
fair enough. Same tomato.
Yeah. Why did Snowden go to Russia?
Yeah, fair enough.